So I think the word influencer is really interesting because I think that today when we think of influencers, we think of the numbers of followers that they have. And I don't believe that's influencing. I think that there are so many other people that probably have less followers but are influencing in the way they present themselves and the things that they want to say. So I don't think that influencers just come from social media. I think influencers are you, all of us, right? That have something to say. And I was just going to say what you said, like Made in Heaven, there's Mismatch. There's so many other stories that are coming out in India and around the world about these topics. But I think when I was growing up, I didn't see any representation of myself when I was in Canada and also my LGBTQ friends as well on television. And that's why maybe I got into film, because I kind of wanted to break that thing. Like even when I get roles, right? Like the roles that I get, like I was mentioning this to you yesterday, when I'm in Canada, I get like South Asian roles that are so stereotypical that's written by like Brian or John. And then when I'm in India, I get roles that are like, I speak fluent Hindi with no accent, but yet because I'm an NRI, I would get roles that are like, oh, thoda zyada accent karke bolo isko. And I'm like, what? And they're like, no, do it again. Zyada aur zyada. And I'm like, just speak in English. And I'm like, why? You know? So it creates also this massive identity crisis as well, right? So because of that reason, because there's no representation, I took it upon myself, and I think a lot of people do take it upon themselves to bring our stories forward by writing our own stories. That's the only way that we'll be able to see ourselves on screen represented well, and I think that would create, even for the future generation when they look up, we created that path for them. I just want to also add on to that. I think that India just generally is also judgmental and very quiet. When there's certain things that's going on in the world, everyone, especially in place of privilege, a lot of Bollywood stars will put up Black Lives Matter, black squares, but then something happening in the country, no one wants to speak up about that. They're extremely quiet and living their privileged lives, going to Maldives and taking photos. And also, like coming to these events, like there are certain type of people that want to be educated about DEI are here. What about the rest of India? How do we take these conversations forward? Right? And also we're talking about victims. That is so true what you mentioned, because just usually victims are always in the forefront. You know, what you mentioned, the perpetrators are never held accountable. How do we change those things? Because that's continuing on for so many years. The policies have not been changed. There's no legal, like, free help. And even if there is, there's no resources that is readily available. Like, I have experience back in Canada and here. We should learn from other countries as well and maybe try to implement them here, because when I was growing up in Canada, we had no means, no campaigns everywhere. We had those hotlines everywhere, and I'm aware that India has those hotlines too, but I don't think a lot of people know about them because it's just not readily available. I don't think a victim would go through something and then have the courage to go on their phones and look for a hotline to speak to somebody. So I think that as a community, as organizations, as people of, you know, like in the government and things, we need to be more aware on how to share these resources to people. It shouldn't be a political statement, you know, and there's so many other ways to do this. There could be like anonymous peer help support. We can have survivors become advocates and talk about this and not shame them. Because all of these things that we see, most of the times, the dignity of the victim and the respect is taken away. People are always like, log kya kahenge? Why? People are going to speak anyway. Why is no one speaking to the perpetrators, right? There should be like free legal help. Like there's so many other ways to do this. There should be campaigns that should be run, right? But that's just lacking. And us as a community need to come up with solutions and not just talk about it in a panel. It needs to be executed.